said empty your mind.
The Sponsorscapes map became a network diagram for accessing the so-called cultural capital students acquire through their varying encounters and histories with literacy. Ben detailed his home state heritage, adoration with the K-pop fandom and convergence culture on Tumblr, and shared memories of his mother reading to him when he was younger as primary sponsors of his literacy identity. The Sponsorscapes referent asks us how, though, in a world comprised of both human and non-human actors, do we account for the traces of techno-literacies in a networked and digitally mediated world? What might they teach us about method and methodology? How can these resonances be traces, seen as moments of queer rhetorics? While the techno-centered question has been taken up by an array of scholars, documenting the cyborg/metal meets flesh era of writing in the age of the internet, I want to attend to and be cognizant of Camille's reflection highlighted in the opening epigraph. Young people still do make meaning through the composition of their texts. And while I will think it necessary to move beyond the modernist and structuralist frame of empirical meaning-making and so-called truth, I also think it important to recognize and validate the small moments of perceived agency youth feel when composing a diary-like blog post, or retweeting a follower from the Black Lives Matter movement to join a larger cacophony of resistance. Although these granular utterances are but a speck of sand on a much larger beach of network geographies, they help, as Massey contends, attend to the ongoing stories of the everyday, even perhaps on varying planes of imminence. This presentation, what some would call the building place between method and storying, is an attempt to put forth a yes-and theory of contemporary everyday literacy sightings. Elastic literacies, a heuristic perspective that helps account for literacy sponsorscapes, is a quasi-scavenger theory, or as Halberstam would contend, a queer methodology, insofar as it operates from seemingly incommensurable vantage points to nuance and understand text, context, spatiality, and representation. It works, as Storniolo and Hall argue, to trace resonance and meaning as we come to exist in a tech-textured world. I'll then voice two youth stories and perform a genealogy of the varying turns made by these young people as they trace tensions between representation and materiality. Through these storying episodes, I hope to render how Elastic Literacies operates both by modernist backslides of mediation, identity work, and contextual meaning-making, but also by understanding affect and the politics of spatiality against a non-representational backdrop. In the end, I'll be a voice in the larger session to meditate on what a queer methodology may entail, and detail the role literacy sponsorscapes played in the analysis of data. I'll highlight my use of these digital spaces to queer methodology. As youth curated and created identities through composing, I'll argue our queerness, a skin I share, came to fruition through the textual landscapes of digital environments and literacy sponsorscapes saturated with cultural rhetoric. By highlighting how literacy sponsorscapes help attend to the cultural rhetoric work of queering writing, I'll examine how, as Camille closes, everything I learned about queer, I learned online.
Empty your mind. Be formless. Shapeless.